Let's do this. Here. I got hit. Got one. Injured. Got one.
Alpha, go.
Flash out. X-ray down. I'm hit. Got one. Tango down. I'm hit. Flash out. Clear. Moving. I got you. Target left. You. Tango down.
SWAT teams are basically the stuff that good action movies are made of. Police carry out thoughtfully planned, swift tactical strikes so as to approach a dangerous situation in a very smart way as safely as possible.
It's a tactical nightmare.
I know. Well, first,
This is the only way in. And we gotta make it up the stairs blind. Once we get up there, we're right out in the open. They have the advantage of cover. They can pick us off like sitting ducks. And if we make it across the floor and down the stairs, we still can't tell the homies from the good guys until they shoot at us.
Even if it isn't rigged with explosives, it's still a fucking nightmare.
The original Rainbow Six captured the feeling of leading and participating in a SWAT team, all the way down to the game's planning phase where you draw out each squad's movements. After planning, you'd take control of an individual squad member and play the game as a first-person shooter. Still, no matter how good you were at first-person shooters, success depended on a good plan, because you and the enemy will both go down in just a couple of shots. As the years went on and Rainbow Six enjoyed mainstream success, the series began to get adapted more for consoles, and controllers don't exactly have the right inputs to make the planning phase intuitive, so that feature's been missing for the past few installments. Which is a real shame because it was one of my favorite parts of that game. Luckily, we now have door kickers from Killhouse Games on Windows, Mac, and Linux, which is essentially a game where you're only playing Rainbow Six's planning phase. Choose your troopers, equip them with the gear appropriate for the mission, draw out your plan, and watch it unfold. Unlike Rainbow Six, you can modify your plan in real time or while the game is paused after you've already drawn it out. This also differs from a game like Frozen Synapse, where you alternate between planning and execution phases throughout the course of a mission. Pausing isn't required in door kickers to plan out your movements, though it will still let you pause and replan whenever you like, as often as you like. If you're like me, though, you'll probably want to get the optional perfect plan medal by planning out the entire mission at the beginning and never replanning, which is available on most missions alongside the no pause and one-man army medals. Besides those medals, each mission will also give you a rating from 1 to 3 stars to rank your performance. In order to get 3 stars, you have to complete the mission very quickly and with no SWAT casualties, so you'll need a good plan in order to let your team divide and conquer so you can get that 3-star requirement. The more stars you get, the more equipment you can unlock. Everything you can equip has its own set of trade-offs. You might have armor that lets you take more bullets, but you'll move much slower, and it'll be even harder to get that 3-star time. Your gun might be more accurate, but your reload time will be slower, so make those shots count before you empty your clip. I used quite a bit of the available equipment in different scenarios, but I can't say that I found a use for all of it. Still, the options available to you here really make it feel like you have some meaningful choices to make when planning out your mission. As you use your team, they'll individually gain experience, ranking up and slightly increasing their stats. Probably more important than all that, though, is that all the experience points are added together into a squad experience bar, and every level up allows you to pick a new doctrine, which is essentially what would be called a perk in other games today. You never really have to take one doctrine at the expense of being able to take another. You'll eventually end up with all of them, so rather than some kind of meaningful customization of your play experience, this feels like more of a way to pace the difficulty of the game. Added within the first week of release was a much-needed feature that color-coded the pads of your men so that they're easier to differentiate at a glance. This was added right near the end of my video capture, so in most of this footage you'll see the default option, where all of the lines in the planning phase are white. The game is mostly split up into single missions, which are one-off encounters, and the campaigns. The single missions are definitely the meat of the game. In fact, the game won't even let you touch the campaigns until you've reached squad level 6. It nudges you toward those single missions, which escalate quickly from the basic tutorial levels into more interesting and challenging scenarios. There are nearly 80 of these missions, and they're a ton of fun. Your objectives might be to hunt down every terrorist, rescue hostages, prevent an execution, arrest a suspect, recover evidence, escort a VIP through a dangerous location, or prevent a bomb detonation. Maps vary from simple, small maps to very large, very difficult maps, requiring that you put more thought into your plan before executing it. But every map will be able to be finished in well under 3 minutes of actual execution. On that note, it's probably worth mentioning that the terrorists in these levels will be slightly randomized. A game like this would be ruined if you could just memorize the positions of the terrorists and make your SWAT troopers account for those exact places, so luckily they're not always in the same places, which makes a good plan more important. This does lead to a weird side effect, though. You can have a good plan with some flaws, and if it doesn't work the first time, you can probably restart the mission a few times with the same plan and eventually pull off 3 stars. I've also noticed that while the game supports multi-storied buildings, it doesn't handle them all that well. Switching floors means you can't give more orders to a particular trooper until they've reached that floor. It feels pretty sloppy, but I can probably count the number of missions with multiple floors on my fingers, so with all the other missions the game offers, this is a relatively small hiccup. The big difference between the campaigns and the single missions is that a campaign consists of a string of missions where injuries will carry over into the next mission and deaths are permanent. If you do too poorly on these missions as a whole, you don't officially get credit for completing the campaign. What's a bit frustrating is how they handle the concept of permanent death. You can play a campaign mission and fail it horribly, but if you click the restart button, none of it counted, and you can try again with no consequence. That is unless you choose Iron Man mode, which prevents you from restarting. But if you didn't play the campaign in Iron Man mode, you can restart the level as many times as you want until you get the perfect execution that leaves everyone alive. The only way you can do poorly in a campaign is if you press the continue button with anything less than the best result. In my case, I pressed the continue button by accident after I let one or two of my men die. What I didn't realize is that this also means they can't come back for the single missions afterward, so I lost a few of my guys that I had leveled up quite a bit just because I accidentally hit continue in the campaign mode instead of restart. To add insult to injury, if you click the continue button, you can't retry the mission again until you finish the campaign and restart it, so fixing those mistakes will take some time. The campaigns don't even have any real story to them like you'd expect, though I hear through the grapevine that this might be added sometime in the next year or so. For now, the only real difference is dealing with a few consequences of your actions between missions. Since there's no real story to miss out on and no dialogue to worry about missing, I found myself tuning out the original music and door kickers and just listening to my own. Don't get me wrong, it's not like the music in this game is bad, but you'll probably spend so much time in it that, like Binding of Isaac, FTL, or Civilization, you'll have heard all the game's tracks enough times to want to hear something different. As I said before though, the meat of this game is definitely in the single missions, and they'll keep you occupied for a long time. Because of the nature of how long it takes to finish or perfect a single mission, the game lends itself just as well to being played for a few hours or a few minutes. I foresee myself coming back to this game again and again just when I have 15 minutes to kill, so I can attempt to 3-star the next mission and get all of its medals. Even when you run out of the single missions created by the developer, there's a level editor and a random mission generator. While both of them are good solutions to continually offering more content to the game, in my experience, both of them ran into their share of bugs. You can occasionally generate a random mission that bugs out, such as this one, where the terrorist that I shot randomly disappeared instead of registering as a kill. I also tried a user-generated level based off of SWAT-4 that caused the game to crash on me, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and say that it could have been caused by the level being generated on an older, incompatible version of the game. One thing that I thought was weird about the randomly generated missions is that they can be used as an easy way to grind out levels for your squad and get all of your doctrine points quickly by purposely generating very easy missions. Maybe this was done on purpose so that you can mostly skip the grind of the game if you so choose, but it comes across as more of a design oversight. If you finish a mission, you can save it and view it in the replay viewer, and it even allows an export to a video file if you'd like. In my experience though, the video quality has proven to be pretty poor. Any other form of video capture will likely serve you better, but it's better that the game has the feature than not at all. And besides, when you're not exporting to video, the in-game replay viewer is good enough to show you what you did wrong or to show you how what you did is actually really cool. Door Kickers is a challenging and enjoyable game that can be played just as easily in long stretches as in short bursts. There are enough missions to keep you occupied for a long time, well beyond the 10 hours it took me to get through the 3 campaigns. And despite the few missions that suffered from glitches which would prevent me from completing the level, I would say that this game fills a Rainbow Six-sized hole in our lives. If you missed the tactical planning that went into the old Rainbow Six games, or if you want a game that you can keep coming back to try to perfect, Door Kickers is a great game to scratch that itch.